The Trump administration wants to remove a key oversight provision from the process of federal protections and prosecutions. So the Washington Post reports the change would remove a review process that ensures cases against public officials are legally sound and not politically motivated. So federal prosecutors would be able to indict members of Congress without higher approval. Attorney General Pam Bondi says that she is removing Biden-era political bias from the DOJ. Lots to talk about here. Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes joining us here. First, lay out how we got here.
Alicia, I'm going to try my best. This is extremely complicated, not something that's elementary school level, but I'll break it down for all the folks that are following at home. When candidate Trump was running, he said this, that the weaponization of the Department of Justice was a problem, mostly because he was in the crosshairs of the Department of Justice. Now, fast forward to nominee Pam Bondi, who said when she was the nominee that the partisanship and the weaponization will be gone. America will have a one-tiered system of justice. It sounds like those are great things. However, these actions that they have been taking and this recommended action that they are taking now is something that would seem to open the door for weaponization as opposed to close the door. So what are we talking about? This public integrity section, or PIN as it's known, is a group that looks at, that makes sure it watches and oversight of before you can take some member of Congress or any elected official, judge or congressional member, that you have to have an opportunity to have this watchdog group look at it and ensure that it isn't politically biased. They ensure that it isn't something that's saying, I'm going after my political opponents. The very thing that Trump said was happening during the Biden administration that they did not want to see, this watchdog group would stop those types of things from happening. So if you get rid of this watchdog group, yeah, the things that you were alleging were happening can blatantly happen because there will not be a watchdog group stopping it from happening. So that's how we got to this point. The past, but I think, folks, the further we get from our past allows us to have things like this happen. Because if I give you a quick history lesson, why do we have PIN, Alicia? Something called Watergate. Yeah, we had political corruption. We had folks sneaking into political offices of their opponents. And so now we had this created to make sure that if we're going to bring any type of charges against the other side, if we're going to make sure that we are working in a bipartisan fashion, you'll have a watchdog group ensuring that nothing like this is happening on the backside.
Okay, so explain, if you could, just so people could understand, how does removing the review process ensure that cases against public officials are not politically motivated?
I don't think that it does that. I mean, if this sole purpose of this watchdog group is to ensure that investigations don't go forward that are based on political bias, and you're removing that, I mean, it's like if I'm ensuring that my refrigerator doesn't get open, if I put a lock on it, then I take the lock off, that's going to allow the refrigerator to get open regardless if I think it's the best interest. And so there's nothing else that would stop it. So now individual attorney generals in their own state can make a determination if they want to bring claims against Congress members. And so you'll have this happening right now in real time. Ed Martin, that was the intern person that now has stepped down, couldn't get the votes to be at the nomination. He already sent these types of letters to 2 congressmen saying, I saw your statements on CNN's press conference the other day, and I think your statements were a threat. We're going to bring a claim against you and start investigating to see if that was a legitimate threat. This is what Penn would stop. They would say, well, those really weren't threats. He made comments. They were in jest. They weren't actually communicating a threat of violence. He was saying we should bring weapons, like bring our full strength to the party, not literal weapons. And so those are the types of things that you're going to see happen on a rapid basis and a state-by-state basis when you remove something like Penn.
Any last thoughts?
I think this is opening up a dangerous door, a precedent. You don't have these watchdog groups in place for no reason. We are very reactive in the way that we create rules and laws in our country. Penn was created because we had something really bad happen in Watergate, and the floodgates had opened. Penn was a way to stop and slow down the flooding of a terrible situation. I think removing that will do just that, will open up the weaponization of our Department of Justice like we've never seen before.
Khalif Rhodes, appreciate your insight as always. Thank you.